Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Stars and Stripes here at Dover. It's race number 8 out of 15 of the regular season. Playoffs just around the corner as we're hitting halfway in the regular season. Drivers that are looking on top, you've got that of Nick Holland going for 4 in a row if he can get it done here at Dover, as he's won the last 3 races. Scott Rickard's got himself 2 wins, and the rest of the field still aiming to get some wins for themselves. Other drivers have got wins. Travis Butt back at Las Vegas, as well as that of Mike Watts, who got his win back at the start of the season at Daytona. Everyone else been getting a lot of top 5s, top 10s. But here for the Stars and Stripes, we're going to the mile course concrete racing here at Dover. Big thanks to all the sponsors that make the action happen. First and foremost, I want to give a big thanks to ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Go get yourself a gamer to feel the sounds. Don't just hear them with your ButtKicker. It's a way for you to actually feel the footsteps, rumbling of an engine, also slipping and sliding while you're racing around on iRacing. ButtKicker, get yourself a gamer 2, and while you're buying your gamer 2, use the promo code FreakyFast20. That's Freaky with 2 E's. FreakyFast20 for promo code. Get yourself 20% off of your gamer 2. ButtKicker, feel what you've been missing. Also, a huge shout out to that of McConey Setup Shops. McConey Setup Shops, get yourself setups that can help you win. Remember, it's our setups, but it's your victories. Also, if you want to get yourself some more help, go to www.mcconeysetupshops.com/coaching for $25 per hour. You can get yourself some coaching for some of the best out there, as such as from that is Zach Novak, Jimmy Mullis, drivers from the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. They're some of the best. Get yourself some help. Again, McConey Setup Shops. It's our setups, but it's your victories. If you want to get yourself some setups from McConey Setup Shop, use the promo code FFB10. Again, that's FFB10 for 10% off on those setups. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Hunter Hayward, and in the production chair is Robert Moyer. But Hunter, it's 150 laps here at Dover. We're excited to see how these drivers are going to attack this concrete jungle, but it's going to be certainly a little bit of chaos based on what we've been seeing during practice.
Well, definitely. And, Miles the Monster, Dover International Speedway is a very iconic track for how tough it is and how tough it is on tires. It's a really tough concrete track all around, and it's not called the Monster just because for its nickname. I mean, it is the Monster. I've raced this track multiple times. I really enjoy myself, but it is really, really tough here, and it's going to be really interesting to see how these drivers can navigate their way around it and who does it the best. But like you mentioned earlier, Sam, touching on the 68, the 05, all these drivers who've been dominating this season, it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers are up to par in speed and racing each other like we've seen in these past 7 races. It'll be really interesting, but right now, looking at practice right now, Sam, I noticed something interesting, and I don't know if the 05 Rickard has put down a quick lap just yet. I guess we'll find out during qualifying that's about to happen, but the 05 Rickard, running 14th on the board right now, below the 00 of Butt and even the 68 of Holland by many spots. It'll be interesting to see how these drivers qualify and what their race pace will be like.
Yeah, and speaking of qualifying, a lot of drivers before last week, it was everyone having one pole position for themselves. First driver get himself multiple pole positions is going to be that of Timmy McNally. He's got 2 after last week's pole at Pocono. So qualifying has shown throughout this season, it's not really one driver consistently dominating, getting that track position, but as we're inching closer and closer, about a minute and a half until qualifying, Hunter, how important is track position here at Dover?
Track position definitely is something you want to aim towards and have, but at a track where it's so tough on tires and having corner speed is the most important thing here. Fresh tires will dominate anything and will just blow anything out of the water that is even 3 laps older tires. And right now, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what strategies some of these drivers pull off, especially with how slidey these cars are in the exit of the corners. I don't know if you've been seeing the Sam, but these drivers are sliding on exit right now, killing them with tires. So it'll be interesting to see what times they're going to be running in the long run, but also, some drivers, like we've seen earlier, really like to go out in the first couple laps, push it really hard, pull away that gap from the leaders, but then kill their tires so much that then they eventually lose that gap and the lead. So it'll be interesting, but track position at this track on even tires could be important, but in the longer run, the drivers with the better tires definitely will be the king of overall just track position and gaining their positions forward.
Yeah, and you just touched on the fact that they are sliding through the corners. The track temp here for practice, it's been pretty warm on track temp. Ambient temperature, though, being only 65 Fahrenheit for these drivers outside. But on the track surface, it's been 111 degrees. That's another factor on why we're seeing a lot of slipping and sliding. But the exit of these corners, very difficult for the drivers as practices come to a close. It's time to get that track position that we were talking about. Qualifying for 5 minutes, about to get started, and each driver is going to have 2 laps to see what's their best time to put down. And if you touch the wall, get yourself off track, those laps get invalidated. So your goal is to stay clean, but also fast. Hunter, the outside wall, probably one of the more well-known factors of this track here at Dover when you're racing. What makes that outside wall coming out exit of these corners so difficult?
Well, Sam, this track is known for how fast these drivers can navigate their ways through the corners for a track that's kind of known as a short track. And so you'll see how much these drivers fly through the corners. As a driver, I've raced this track so much that in a qualifying lap, the drivers aren't even really touching the brake. They're just doing a large lift, kind of just keeping their left foot hovering over that left brake pedal. But they never really use it. That's why you see the drivers slide up a little bit in center and then get back to the power on exit, and that's why you see them get back to the power and with not much downforce. Like you see that little wing on the back of their car makes them slide, and unfortunately that's where they slide back up into that wall, or sometimes they don't have enough front turn on their tires and eventually go into that wall. It reminds me of a Darlington stripe, Sam. It's kind of like where it's just at least one driver gets into that outside wall every single week at Dover and even Darlington.
That's something we kind of expect to see drivers at least at some point. Half the field might be saying hello, giving a little bit of a tap to that outside wall, coming either out of turn 2 or turn 4. Qualifying underway, and it's all on the board for a second there. Kyle McCoy, top of the board. Kyle's been missing the last 2 races. He actually has dropped outside of the top 12 in points because of the 2 races that he's missed. The 7's a driver that's been pretty consistent since he's shown up. Has only had 5 starts, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s for that of Kyle McCoy. And Hunter, with the drivers halfway through the regular season, it's time, if you're outside of the top 12 and you've been having a poor season, it's time to step up. And that's kind of what we saw from that of Nick Holland, who before his 3-race streak that started back at Charlotte 3 weeks ago, he was one of those drivers out in about that 20th position in points, and then went on this large streak, finds himself now in 5th place in points. It's starting to get into that motion where drivers that might be thinking that they're back in the late 20s in points right now, they need to start having some great runs if they want to make the playoffs.
Oh, definitely. And this is the perfect time to do it. You still have multiple races to build your points back up and recover to make your way into the playoffs and eventually race for a championship. And, like you mentioned, the 68 going from the 20s all the way up to 5th in points, having 3 straight victories. And, that's so important. But drivers who are really struggling right now, who need to get some points recovered and try to fight their way into the championship contention, this is the time to do it. Like you mentioned, this is where you want to go start getting wins. Having a drive like the 68 at home and just trying to get as much as you can out of every single race so you can be there at the end of the contention.
Some of those drivers on the kind of the bubble of points. Only the top 12 get to move on to our playoffs. And coming in 10th place in points, Trey Jackson. Jackson, one of the fastest cars during practice here at Dover this session. And in 11th, you've got that of Christopher Wade, Ken Campbell in 12th position at that bubble spot. Then Kyle McCoy in 13th, Eric Schwar, Travis Dart. Those are going to be your 10th through 15th. But outside of our top 15, currently 17th in points, Nate Lynch. He moved up 4 positions after a great finish last week at Pocono. But the drivers got the biggest jump. 19th, was back in 29th in points at the start of last week. Cole Grimes going to be moving up to 19th in points, 10 position jump. for that team, needing to be more consistent. Only has a total of 1 top 10 this season, needs to find a top 5 if he wants to continue to gain on the drivers in front of him, as currently right now going to be put about 32 points back from our top 12, so it's still within reach, with there still being about 7 races left in the regular season, but it is going to be a tall order as we have 30 seconds left here in qualifying.
You know, and look at this, Sam. Very interesting. The 12 of Medlin and the 88 of McNally tied dead on for the same time for the 2 spots on the front row. You know, I've seen times tied before, but for the front row, that is very interesting. I don't know how iRacing decides a tie. It may be over iRating, but yeah, and 5th and 6th is also tied. Yeah, I mean, multiple cars are tied right now. 3rd and 4th are tied. I'm kind of blind there, Sam. You know, 4th and 5th, 1,000th split apart. These drivers really are doing quick times, and they're all doing it very evenly.
Our top 6 all within 1/10 actually of one another. Our top about 4 within about 5,000ths of 500ths of one another. Extremely close times between everyone here, but they're getting gridded up. It's time to see what our field's going to look like. Pretty small field here at Dover, but I think it might be the fact of drivers not sure how the cars are going to react, as on the pole position going to be given to that of Andrew Medlin, getting his 2nd pole this season, tying with Timmy McNally, who will be on his outside for row number 1. Row 2 is going to be Ken Campbell and Jason Metcalf, with that in row number 3 and 5th position. Nick Holland looking for win number 4 in a row, as he's gotten 3 in a row so far. Scott Rickard's going to be finding himself in 6th position, so finding a little bit more speed, and he is going to be only, I mean, it's crazy looking at the times and how close they are. It is dazzling. In 7th place, you've got that of Derek Offerman, as well as Kyle McCoy, going to be in 8th position. 9th, going to be Kyle Boyling, and finishing out our top 10, fan favorite, that's Chris Essery.
Running at 11th is the 18 of Dr. House, one of also the big fan favorites we see every single Thursday night here. In 12th place, and that outside row will be Aaron Hale, the 4-car at Revolution Motorsports. 13th will go to Brian Lynch. 14th will go to Tom Velez. 15th, that 2-car of Mike Lynch. 16, going to go to that 31 of Trey Jackson, who we said earlier, quick as practice, may have some really good race pace here today. 17th is going to go to Brian Chu in the 11-car. 18th is one of the drivers we see up front a lot there, Sam, is the 53 of Christopher Wade. 19th is going to go to Mark Beverly, and to round out your top 20, Michael Watts.
In 21st, we're going to be finding that at Kovacic. Then it's going to be Haas Beverly in 22nd. Brett Sommer is going to be the last driver to put down a time, with that of John Dart. Travis Butt going to be starting back with Travis Dart. Randy Carnwell, I believe Carnwell is going to be race control. I might be wrong on that call. And Nate Lynch going to be in 23rd, and 30th and 29th going to be that of Brian Burchett, and also Eric Schwarr. The drivers certainly excited on how this end of the race is going to go, as Randy Cornwell going to be our race control for tonight's race. So giving us a total of only 29 drivers going to be racing here tonight. It's kind of a smaller field than most, but hey, with a smaller field, better shot of green flag racing.
You know, and Sam, Dover, really known for their hectic restarts here. You got the 12 of Medlin. You know, usually a Silver Fox, as we see, creeps up on the later runs. Usually doesn't always have the best qualifying position, but he always is there at the end of long runs. What are we going to see here on this restart here, Sam?
I mean, the goal for Medlin and a lot of these drivers, get out in front, get single filed, and then save your tires. If you can save them, I think that's going to be the biggest plus for a lot of these guys. You only have 4 sets to work with. 1 you start out with, 3 in pit road, and luckily everyone's got a faster pair, but the pace car is off. Time to see how the Dover 150 is going to go. 150 laps for these drivers as they wait for the green flag. Green flag waves. Medlin, McNally taking themselves on an awesome launch here. Watch out for the 15 as well as the 35. Ken Campbell and Metcalf have just been on a tear for themselves, trying to have consistent runs throughout the last couple of races. And to the inside, it's Ken Campbell trying to make a pass on Timmy McNally.
Right here, like you mentioned, Sam, this is where the 12 car now has some room to breathe. I mean, the 15 might still be there trying to attack and pounce on the 12 to get that lead position, but this is where you just already want to start backing up your entry, saving that right front, because the later run is what matters the most. and is definitely more impactful than the first couple of laps as the leader. You know, Medlin's already got his bonus point for leading a lap. Now you just got to save your stuff and be there in the long run.
Just stay consistent at this point, expecting a lot of the drivers to stay single filed out for these first 10 to 15 laps and then start to get aggressive. But as I say that, it's going to be that of Nick Holland to the inside, and already seen some of the drivers slipping and sliding on the entry of the corners. You touched on it there of Hunter. The drivers just trying to stay off the off the brake, as much as possible into these corners, which is going to cause the drivers to slip and slide. The practice temp and the race temp exactly the same. Track temp 111, ambient temp 65 degrees. Kind of the question mark with how big of a field we have. Yes, it's smaller than what it's been, but big enough where the track temp might stay stable with how cold the air is outside.
Yeah, and with Dover, concrete is just, it activates by heat, and it gets much hotter and hotter every single time. You have a hot race car going around it, especially almost 30 cars on the track is going to heat it up. And Dover is known for the concrete track that they have, and concrete just tears up tires like it's nothing because of the heat that activates that track. And right now, like you said, only 65 degrees outside, yet 112 degrees track temp, and it's probably going to be climbing even more. But right now, Sam, looking at this battle right now, the 7 of McCoy behind the 35 of Metcalf, looking to pounce about a 5-car train right now. Also the 20 of Offerman as well. These cars all looking for position, battling right now.
Yeah, everyone's trying to slip and slide, figure out how to gain as much as they can. Currently, looking at Nick Collins, already moved up 3 positions from 5th up to 3rd, and about to be thinking about pouncing onto the back bumper of the 15 of Ken Campbell. But out looking at the field right now, everyone's still keeping it close from where they were at, as we're seeing Scott Rickard, one of the drivers, has been dominating, and also Wade. Right now, for that of Chris Wade, this is the middle of the field, 15th position, and for Wade, touched on it, he's one of the drivers that's right around the bubble position, but we've seen him some weeks have a lot of speed, other weeks it takes all race before he's up in the top 10. One of those things of consistency that we've got to be seeing these drivers start to hit if they want to be having a shot for the playoffs. And speaking of consistency to be seen, Ryan Lynch, Mike Lynch, the 24 and the 2, those are 2 drivers that we've seen have poor luck throughout most of this season. It's been a very much up and down season for the both of them. They need to find some consistency if they want the playoffs to be where they land at the end of the field.
You know, and unfortunately, bad luck is just what you can't avoid. You know, you just need to have some of the lady luck on your side to be able to have great races and consistency every week. But, some drivers are really good at looking past it and moving on every single week and getting good finishes, like the 68 of Holland, now 3 in a row. He didn't have some good luck at the beginning of the season, and now he's having a really good past 3-4 races, winning 3 of the past 3, looking for 4 right now, as he just made a move around the 15 of Campbell right now. The 68 of Holland is charging, but the 12th of Medlin almost 1.5 seconds out already. I don't know, Sam. Either the 12 of Medlin's got really quick speed here, or maybe he's just not saving as much as the cars behind him.
It looks like he might not be saving. The driver that's in my eyes that possibly could be thinking about saving is Ken Campbell, but Dover, one of those tracks where drivers, they could be slightly making mistakes and costing themselves. We drop back to 15th place. We got drivers side by side. Aaron Hale, Trey Jackson, they are side by side. Jackson, this is kind of a surprise to see the 32 this far back for a driver that was the fastest during practice, but qualified in 16th, running back in 15th currently. This is odd to see for a driver that had that quick run, quick pace, but obviously the pace was for that 1 lap qualifying time. The race pace it's going to take him most of this time to try to figure that out and translate that pace here into the race.
And you see here, Sam, most drivers, we're not seeing any single file or not any double file racing going on right now for multiple laps. You just see drivers pushing it too wide to make a pass and get around them quickly. I mean, many drivers really like being single filed here, getting into their pace and just hitting their marks, not really worrying about the drivers in front of them as much. So it's kind of like a track where, like we saw in Martinsville, where drivers didn't like being side by side for very long, wanted to get single file and get into their pace, and the only time they really wanted to get on the inside of a car is during the pass.
Yeah, everyone's just picking and choosing how they want to attack the drivers in front of them, and looking at the times in this last lap. Looking like at those times, I would say Scott Rickard's probably one of the fastest drivers on track currently, with that then being Nick Holland's third fastest being that of Medlin. As you can see the times on our scoreboard, drivers certainly looking quick right now. We're starting to see those times translate from 23 seconds, which that was where they were running at their best, to now around 24 seconds. Starting to see that wear on the tires already just 15 laps, 16 laps into the race.
Yeah, now look at the time by the 68 of Holland and the 12 of Medlin. A 24.17 for Medlin and a 24.0 for the 68 of Holland. 1.5 tenths quicker. That translates a lot for the 68 of Holland. He definitely wants to keep the consistency up. Right now, only 400s quicker this time, but you can definitely see here what he does in here. I'll take you through a lap here with the onboard of 68 of Holland right here, going into turn 3, almost on the limiter, kind of letting it slide through the corner, easy on the brake, just letting it rotate through the corner. Let the RPMs kind of slow down the car. Back hard on the gas here. Got to be easy on it though. Don't want to spin those rear tires. Back almost on the limiter again. Letting it roll through the corner just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Get slowly back into the gas. Hard on the gas again. Got to stay away from that wall. You got to avoid the wheel spin there. That's a lap around Dover, and that's why drivers say it's really tough.
Yeah, and we're already seeing just already in the first 16, 15 laps, already a second drop off what their best times were. Under these drivers only have 90% of fuel load, and you would think that they would try to push it as far as they can go, but with how much we're seeing the tires wear down, it seems like it'd be more of when you feel like your tires are too worn, that's when you're going to be coming into pit road.
Definitely, and especially with the 90% fuel load, that's not as big as a difference as you'd see with 100%. A track like this where you're not on the gas like you would see other tracks like Daytona or 1.5 mile tracks where they're only about 35 to 40 lap runs. Well, here they're 70 plus, even with the 90% fuel load, and 70 lap old tires at a track like this just isn't going to cut off for drivers, and they won't like it, and they'll lose too much time. So like you said, I mean, it's just where drivers want to push it as far as they can, where they can still somewhat compete with their old tires. And Dover is just, I mean, they call it Miles the Monster. Miles really likes eating up his rubber. Is already, you can see in 1 and 2 and even in 3 and 4, all of the marbles from the rubber falling off that tire and disintegrating, going up into the track, and you can see all that rubber on the outside of turns 3 and 4. You don't want to get in that, Sam. You get in that, all your car will lose all grip and go around.
I was looking at the track on the way that they were carrying on with the track, and they did say they were going to keep the marbles and the dust that was going to be left on the track as on iRacing. So you could pick and choose on which settings you'd like to have for these drivers. Same with the track temp, which the track temp has gone up 4 degrees since the last time we touched on it, up to 115. But they also had the track at about 66% usage just during the practice, and that carried over into qualifying and into this race. That's why we're seeing a lot of rubber already built into this track, and why we're starting to see the marbles on the high line and on the apron of this course. Drivers got to be careful if they ever go into the marbles, because your car's going to lose a lot of grip. Find yourself sliding when you get up into those spots.
Touching on the loss of grip right now, Sam, the 12 of Medlin had that 1.5 second gap not too long ago, and now only 3 tenths behind, almost now 2.5 in front of Holland. Holland definitely applying some pressure right now on the 12 of Medlin, looking to make this pass soon, but right now you can see how much more grip that 68 has in the corners and how much better he saved his tires. And right now, Sam, looking for 4 in a row. This 68 is on fire with consistency, and I know he's trying to keep this up.
And this is probably a complete different race for Nick Holland than what we've had the last 3, because the last 3 races it's been survive until those last 25% of the race, then put myself up front with a fuel or a pitch strategy call for the 68. To the lead now it is Nick Holland. This is kind of showing that it could be a car to watch out for. Is blinking in front of them. That's going to be that of Haas Beverly. Has to figure out if the 28 is going to get out of the way. Also looks like a driver having issues. That's the 13 of Schwar that got himself into the wall. That's what that smoke wants. Is into Medlin, also into Holland. Our first yellow coming out.
Oh no, and it was the
no. Offerman, hard contact. It just kept on snowballing and getting worse as the wreck continued on. Oh,
I jinxed it, Sam. I jinxed it, Sam. Man, that was heartbreak right there for the 68.
it's just one of those things where you expect the lap car. I think it was had to be a miscommunication of where the lap car was going to go, and
Yeah.
gets into the rear end, which then picks him up, spins him around, and also going to be collecting the second place driver, Medlin. And gosh, I mean, it's one of those incidences that you hope you don't see, but lead lap car, lap traffic. This is not the first time this season that we've seen this issue happen.
Yeah, and it was a really good recovery and save by the 68. Just unfortunately lost it and came back down onto the track. And that's where you see the troubles with the 20 of Offerman. Look at that view for the 05 of Rickard. Man, some drivers really holding on.
One of those things where you're trying to save, but it's almost better to try to dump it onto the apron so you can save it off track so you're not going to be collecting anyone else up. But with that incident, we're going to be seeing pit road getting pretty busy here. A lot of drivers putting themselves in to get service done. Looking like about seven drivers, excuse me, all going to be staying out. While Jimmy McNally going to be coming in as Offerman tried to find space on this replay, and there was none to be regained for the 20.
Yeah, and fortunately enough, Sam, these drivers, they have one more fast repair, so thankfully enough, the 20 and 68 are not out of contention here, but all that track position they had there now lost. The 68 with so much better pace than we saw with the 12 in the later runs, now all lost. Now the 68 is going to be in the back of the pack, maybe a lap down. Probably not. Looks like he's back out in the track already, but unfortunately just heartbreak there for the 68.
Wait to see if Nick Holland's going to be able to get back out on track, and it looks like he will. As Haas Beverly, his goal was to try to take a wave around because he was involved in the incident. So he was not going to get the lucky dog spot, but because of Andrew Medlin staying out, 28 just going to come in, get some service done. Might think about getting a fast repair for himself, but oh man, that's frustrating to see for these drivers. That incident happened between a lap car and a lead lap car, but miscommunication, it's something that is almost seen in every single league and league race, is at some point someone makes a little bit of a mistake on where they expect someone to go, and it just doesn't work out.
And funny enough, Sam, you actually commentated for a race where I had miscommunication with the lap car, and I know how frustrating it can be as just a mental mistake of knowing that you definitely could have had more space to make your way around a lap car, and it's just frustrating for the both of you. And fortunately enough, like I mentioned earlier, this league still does allow one more fast repair, so he's not out of contention. And same thing with the 20 of Offerman. He now got that front fender back and his car back to brand new. But it's just situations like those where drivers both know that all the positions they made up now go back all the way down to the back of the field.
And also we were seeing the 13 of Schwartz dropping back. He actually was the driver that got the lucky dog position, so we'll have to start at the end of the line. But up front, our front seven, all drivers that did not pit for fuel or tires. We're going to be seeing a huge surge of drivers that are hoping this race can go green and they'll find themselves with the better strategy, but it's going to be that of Andrew Medlin, Scott Rickard, as well as Kyle Boyling, Brian Chu, Travis Butt, and also George Kovacic, as well as Ken Campbell and Brian Burchett. Those drivers going to be your top 8. Ken Campbell came into pit road, first driver of those that got fresh rubber, with Timmy McNally, Kyle McCoy, as well as Paul House, Jason Metcalf, and then you also get to throw in Brian Lynch, Offerman, and that of Mike Lynch, your top 15 of those that are running as we're stacking up, getting ready to go. Hunter, this is, we were green for such a long time. It was looking pretty green and clean. If I could speak, it would be very nice, but now we're finding drivers on different strategies. Do you think this is a mix-up that could find us with calamity coming?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the amount of time loss you saw these drivers have on older tires is going to be crazy to see how fast these drivers are going to fly on new tires. But I'll give it back to you, Sam, as we're going green.
Andrew Medlin figuring out he needs to get up front, get himself a gap as green flag out of the air. Scott Rickard, Kyle Boyling, Brian Chu all trying to get it in line. first side-by-side action is going to be that of Kovacic and also Travis Butt, a driver that is losing ground, falling back quickly. It's going to be Brian Burchett. You got to be careful when he's running low, because here it's difficult to pick and choose where you really want to put your car. We already saw a misfortune, but Kyle McCoy to the inside, using that fresh rubber up to 6th place.
And you'll definitely see that 7 flying through the field much quicker soon as well. I mean, almost a second and a half, second plus of time lost every single lap after that 26 lap run we had there, maybe a little bit longer. You'll definitely see this 7 of McCoy flying through the field, maybe to lead with an, oh, we got a 3-wide action right now with the 7, now on the outside of, but already up to 4th position. Man, that 7 is flying.
Yeah, and there was almost a wreck that happened, as it's also going to be a battle for the lead. Scott Rickard has been able to get under Andrew Medlin, and behind him, Kyle Boyling, as that is the 7. Kyle McCoy, he's loving the side-by-side action. It makes his work a little less hard-working, and he might, with the fresh tires, he could make this outside line work.
Oh, definitely, especially with how big the fall-off these tires have. I mean, he can run any corner and have so much more corner speed than any other driver on older tires right now. You know, we also just saw a change of lead right there, the 05 of Rickard back up to the front, but not for long, as we already have the 7 ready to pounce almost on the bumper already of the 05.
Now McCoy, he's missed the last 2 weeks. One of the drivers that's been so consistent in his 5 starts. He's had 4 top 10s, 3 top 5s, and he's looking to get his first win this season. And being a driver that's 13th in points, a win would be massive, locking him into the playoffs.
Oh, definitely, and with this strategy right now, don't count out the 15 of Ken Campbell, already the back bumper of the 05. Going to look at the inside right here. Let's see if he can make it work. I think he'll easily make it work flying through the 05 of Rickard. The problem is, though, Sam, now they only have 2 more sets in the pits, and they have about 120 more laps to make those 2 other sets work as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this 7 and the 15 and many other drivers behind him who took tires as well, how they'll navigate their way around this track with newer tires. They just got to hope that this race stays as green for as long as possible, and just hope for as many little cautions as possible as well.
4 laps since we went green, now going to be 5 laps since we went green. Brian Chu was one of our leaders. Actually, take that back. That was Brian Burchett. That was in 7th place when he restarted, back to 25th position in a blink of an eye, 7 seconds back from our leaders. You're seeing the major difference of having fresh tires over old ones. And if this race stays green, it just seems like you're so off track. You're going to have to make up so much more time and hope that some of these front runners have an incident now.
Yeah, definitely. And as a driver, when you know someone is so much quicker every lap, a second plus every single lap, almost 2 seconds every single lap, this is where you hope that you need a caution to come out quick, so then you can take the tires and have the tire advantage over them, especially with these drivers now having some laps worn in on their tires, and you get bunched back together to make time back up on them. But, you know, the last thing you want to see on a varying tire strategy that makes you slower because of older tires is green flag runs, because the driver who then took the fresher tires and is faster every lap is going to pull away more and more and more, and will still have the tire advantage during the green flag runs. So drivers right now with these varying strategies, it's a lottery, and that's why drivers win and drivers lose on them.
We are seeing just a major train from 5th all the way back to 21st, 22nd place, and it's being led by that of Scott Rickard and Travis Butt. These are the drivers on older tires, and it seems like their whole entire goal, just block and defend as harsh as they can, as just Paul House, Dr. House, gets shoved to the outside, and this long train is just going to push him back. As our top 4, they're loving this. They're pulling away with finding themselves over 5 seconds, almost 6 seconds now, between 1st back to 5th. Oh,
you know, the dangerous part here, Sam. Oh, 3 wide, the 18 of House. Now on the outside of...
Ow! Oh, how did they survive? Yes, they were scattering, but how did they survive coming out of turn number 2? It doesn't make sense. Travis Butt and also Mr. House, I don't know how they did that, but they made it through, and we continue to stay green.
I don't know how they did that either. They door banged multiple times in the center of the corner and on exit. Impressive driving by both of them to keep it together, but also that happened right in front of the 20 of Offerman, who definitely does not want to see another wreck happen right in front of us. Thankfully, all drivers were okay and their cars were still in one piece, but right now, the 05 of Rickard, like we saw, blocking and defending for positions right now, falling back, now side by side with the 00 of Butt, and it looks like he's still got an angry pack of cars behind him.
Nick Holland from all the way back in practically last place. He finds himself up to 10th, blocked by this wall of drivers on older tires. It's probably one of the dangerous places to be. Almost shoved up into the wall. Nick Holland going to be making that outside line work. You got to get by Travis Butt and Rickard as fast as possible because you got a feeling the big one's going to come and it's going to be around those drivers.
Oh, definitely now. And you saw how the contact right there between the 24 and the 00. Oh, man, that was close right there as well. The 00. Man, this is getting racy right here.
They're able to hold on, but you got Scott Rickard and Travis Butt on much older tires, and you got the drivers that really haven't been in these spots and positions to go 3 wide, 2 wide in a lot of these actions. Is putting some drivers that aren't used to these stressful conditions now in some of the worst conditions. As you got that of Aaron Hale, gonna be just throwing it to the inside, making the pass, and also following suit could be Brian Lynch and others. As luckily, the wall of the 05 and the 00. They finally have gotten split up, giving some drivers an opportunity to get by one at a time.
Definitely, and the 00 had multiple occasions where he definitely could have spun that car around. Thankfully, he didn't. He now has cars who are angry behind him getting around him now. But, man, that got really risky, and it was all happening in the same area, interesting enough. It was all off of 2, Sam. I think drivers right now are getting the best runs off of 2, and that's where they want to make the passes.
And it's split up the field so much because we're just seeing these giant gaps now between 3 to 4 drivers because only 3 to 4 drivers are able to get by that of Rickard and Butt at those moments because they were just clogging up so much space. We got our top 4 all within about 3 seconds of one another, just pulling away from the rest of the gap. Then you got to fall back to 7.5 seconds back from our leader. That's when you find Wade, House, Offerman, and then another second back is Nick Holland. Another second back is that of Gray Jackson. Then we got another pack of 2 to 3 drivers that were able to get by the 00 and the 05. And luckily, we're starting to see the rest of the field have fresher tires get by that clog and a mess that we were seeing. But man, that was a scary moment. And luckily, it looks like we're getting back to single filed action. But as we say that, lap traffic now soon to be a factor for our leader.
Oh, definitely. And, Kyle McCoy has somewhat of a comfortable 2-second gap between him and the 35 of Jason Metcalf. And, that's really comfortable to see as a leader that your mirror isn't filled up anymore of a driver behind him. And you can hit your marks knowing that you could be running quicker times right now. It looks like he is running a little bit quicker times. Oh, wow. 5/10 that last time, Sam. Maybe that 15 of Campbell is really, really saving right now. And this is where you want to have lap traffic. They can still bother you, but you won't lose as much time as, a train of 3-4 cars in front of the 7 of McCoy. This is definitely where you want to get around them as quick as possible without losing all that time you pulled away from the 15.
The next 4 drivers that we're going to be seeing Kyle McCoy try to get by, that's going to be Travis Dart, John Dart, Brian Berchet, as well as George Kovacic. These are the drivers that are going to be hopefully being a little bit nicer on letting our lead lap driver get by, and hopefully there's a lot better communication. Last time lap traffic and our leader were close to one another, we had our first caution as Kyle McCoy able to get by that of Kovacic, easily getting by the 65 is our 7. And Hunter, when getting by lap traffic, we've touched on it, miscommunication. How can these drivers communicate with one another to make sure there isn't that collision that we saw that brought out our first wreck?
Well, Sam, either drivers can use the radio or even the Discord channels that some of them are in, but some drivers usually, if they're not in the same team, they're not going to be communicating with each other in Discord. So most drivers will go over the iRacing radio and tell them where they want them or where the lap car will go themselves. And that's usually what happens. But sometimes some drivers just say, go low, go high. And unfortunately, you can see some drivers have a miscommunications. Some lap cars maybe loop it in front of them or lose control of their car and can't go anywhere. And unfortunately, where we can see some incidents happen in front of them. With the 68 of Holland, I think it just looked like a miscommunication and didn't know where the lap car was exactly going to go, and unfortunately wrecked him and a couple of other cars. But communication is key with getting around lap traffic.
It really is. We're seeing some of the battles in the middle of the pack currently. This is Mike Lynch, Nate Lynch, working with each other, trying to also figure out how to get by the 51 of Mark Beverly, and also Brian Lynch. The middle of the field usually is where we find all 3 Lynches just racing with one another, and all three of them, for some weird reason, have been having very similar stories throughout this season. Just caught up with terrible luck, it seems like, almost every race where they'll show that they've got top 10 strength to run there, and then someone gets caught up, or they all get caught up, and someone else is wrecked.
And not only that, Sam, but the 25 of Nate Lynch, unfortunately, got penalized for the accident that was started by the 25 of Nate Lynch and penalized and got an EOL at the beginning of this race. For fans of there who don't know what an EOL penalty is, it stands for end of line penalty, where a driver is forced to go at the end of the pack, even behind cars who are laps down and have to make their way all the way through from literally the back of the pack all the way back to where they originally were started. And that's definitely a heartbreak for drivers who are trying to make their way up to the lead and who know they have a really quick car. So, like you mentioned, just the Lynches, all bad luck in these past weeks, looking to make a really good recovery.
Field starting to pick and choose how they want to attack one another. This is where the drivers battling back in around 21st position. The battle between Andrew Medlin and Kyle Boyling. This was a battle we were expecting to see for the lead, but because of the strategy calls that were made after that first caution that was around lap 25, drivers had to pick and choose. Did you want to get fresh tires then, or stay out, hope that for a quick caution, and hope to find yourself with better tires and fuel for a longer run? Still haven't seen any of those drivers that decide not to pit come to pit road, so they've been out there for 58 laps, soon to be 59 for themselves. This is kind of a big shock for me, Hunter, to see these drivers staying out as long as possible. I mean, you'd think they would have already came into pit road. At this point, I'm guessing they're stretching, hoping that a caution will come out.
Oh, definitely, and this is the only thing they really can't hope for is a caution. You know, and the drivers, now only about 90 laps, 91 to go, they have 3 other sets in the pits for the drivers who stayed out and didn't take tires, and drivers who did take tires this past caution still have 2 more sets. You know, that's only 45 laps each on the rest of these tires. I think, Sam, if a caution would be, or if the caution does come out now, I think the leaders would take their tires now and maybe just have to stretch out that set of tires and hope for the last one at the end of the race. But right now, it's going to be an interesting strategy for the drivers that stayed out, like the 12 of Medlin, you know, really quick every single week, but making a varying strategy from everybody else, trying to maybe have some competition over the drivers at the end of the race. But, you know, Sam, the only time you can really have a tire strategy at the end is when everyone else is out of tires and you get a late caution and you're the only one who really has tires. So it'll be interesting to see how this 12 will make his strategy work, and if it works, and if it pays in his favor.
Yeah, it just got finished with pit road for Andrew Medlin, and we're going to be also having that of Brian Chu into pit road, getting his service done, bringing the second driver under this way. And for both those drivers, they were already a lap down, so they're going to have to figure out how to get themselves back onto hopefully just being 1 lap down for themselves, but on fresher tires, and now 35 lap fresher tires than the drivers that hit it on our caution, and over 60 lap fresher tires than those that still haven't pitted. So expect to see Andrew Medlin and Brian Chu to just fly through this field as we wait for the rest of the field to come into pit road. Huge thanks to all that are watching here tonight. It's the Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series here on the Freaky Fast Broadcasting channel. Thank you also for all those that tuned in from iRacing Live. It has been a great honor to be on iRacing Live and showing all the amazing leagues that we show here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Here tonight, this is race number 8 of the regular season out of 15 races, and then our top 12 get to move on and race for the playoffs. As here at Dover, after this race, Hunter, we go to Phoenix, Indy. We're still deciding. I think they're going to be going to the Super Speedway in Nashville, then Rockingham, Watkins Glen, going to New Hampshire, and finishing out at Talladega. A lot of short tracks that we're expecting to see, and Watkins Glen. The rest of this regular season, still a handful to be seen.
Yeah, and all those tracks you stated with this Xfinity package, all those tracks are definitely drivers' tracks where it's so important to be consistent during this time. Even right now, this is where consistency matters, and getting wins is where it's the most important. You know, drivers, like you mentioned, who are struggling right now in points, this is where they need to start picking up their consistency, getting finishes, really good finishes top 10s, top 5s every single week, even wins to lock themselves in the playoffs. 12 drivers fighting for a spot. We've seen 35 plus drivers show up to races this season, Sam, so it's very tough to make your way into the playoffs, and consistency is how you do.
It's waves on waves of drivers on different strategies. Those that had just pitted about 4 or 5 laps ago, that of Andrew Medlin and Brian Chu, and then you've got our top 17 on tires that they got from our first caution that came back around lap 20. And then we got about 6 or 7 drivers from 20th back to 25th that are trying to hope and woo that the caution will come out, or that they could stay out long enough until some of these lead lap drivers have to come into pit road. Hunter, looking at these drivers and the way that strategies went, we saw that of Andrew Medlin pit around lap 60, but we've already seen the rest of those drivers that have not pitted so far this race still running laps. When do you think the best time would be if you were to come to pit road as we're coming up closer to halfway?
I think now is definitely the best time to do it. It looks like the 05 of Rickard's still staying out. He's in the tail end of the lead lap. He clipped the wall actually a little bit later in this run, or earlier in this run, and he's still staying out, Sam. So I think 70, 75 might be his marker, but right now, that time by a 25.392 for the 05 of Rickard. The leader, 7 of Kyle McCoy, a 24.8. It looks like the 05 is about a second slower every single lap. And not only that, Sam, but he's got the pressure of the leader behind him, the 7 of McCoy, right behind him. And the 05 of Rickard still staying out. This is a very interesting strategy call, what we're seeing right now.
It's so detrimental on losing so much ground. I mean, I think that's why Andrew Medlin kind of was forced to pit so early compared to where he was probably thinking about pitting. And currently Medlin, who's back in 26th position, first car 2 laps down, and about to be passing that of Offerman. You see on screen, there goes the 12, running a full second faster than the drivers that are on the lead lap. And that's just the power of having 30 lap fresher tires than the other drivers around you. You can just fly on the inside. You got the grip to stay there, and a factor that we really haven't touched on that much is, oh no, Eric Schwartz, I think he might have wrecked out of this race. Some puff of smoke on the front stretch, and it was from Schwartz trying to come into his pit box. Came in a little bit too hard into the tire barriers, and has parked it for the day, it looks like, for the 13 machine.
And Sam, the 05 of Rickard still staying out. I honestly don't know what this strategy call is. Now has the pressure of the leader behind him. The 05, he's really quick every single week in and out, competing for wins almost every single week. But if you put yourself a lap down here and then have a car who's quicker than you, the 12 of Medlin, right now with the tire advantage, you're going to be stuck a lap down, and you don't want to be in that position. The 05 Rickard already has those wins locked in, but consistency in getting those bonus points in the playoffs still matters every single week. And right now the 05, the first car a lap down, maybe he's hoping for a caution, but I don't know. This is definitely a very, very risky tire gamble right now for this 05 of Rickard.
The unknown is certainly out there. More drivers that still have not pitted coming into pit road, squealing into pit road was that of Brian Burchett. Saw a puff of smoke from the 223. More drivers coming in. Travis Butt, Travis Dart, all getting service done. Actually, Dart has not gotten service done yet. Still waiting for him to get that service for the 209. But of all the big contenders out here, Scott Rickard still out. Been out there for half the race, and we'll actually take our first commercial break as we're past halfway. We'll be right back in just a few. We're going to go side by side, and when we come back, expecting to see our drivers on the lead lap start piling into pit road. We'll see you in just a few.
want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Makoni Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flags Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Makoni Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Makoni Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MakoniSetupShop.com and learn why Makoni Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Hi, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are going back green here. Yeah. Sorry about that. We just got back from commercial break, but leader Kyle McCoy now going to restart it again. We got a whole kind of even back on tires now here, Sam. But like I mentioned earlier, the 05 of Rickard, 12 of Medlin, 18 of Paul House. Since the leaders did not pit because of the caution that happened, but while we went on commercial break, they're all trapped a lap down now. Very, very, very interesting strategy call by all these drivers, and now they got to fight to pass the leaders twice to take the lead.
Yeah, hey, it's going to be a lot of work to be seen. It was already a struggle once you saw the drivers did not come in for tires under our first caution of the day. So they're going to be all stuck a lap down for Andrew Medlin, Scott Rickard. A lot of our favorites are now looking out of this thing, but a driver that's kind of a fan that the yellow came out can reset. That's Nick Holland, who's up to fourth. Driver that was in the lead got himself caught up with the lap car that brought out our first caution. He had to reset, go all the way back to practically last, and now is up to fourth place. We'll see how these drivers can attack one another, but that second caution, yellow that came out, a little bit of a shocker that happened. It was a mix-up that happened between that of Jason Metcalf, Paul House, and also that of Derek Offerman that brought out our yellow right when we went to commercial break. And, one of those mistimed situations, but we came back right when we go back to green flag racing. Kyle McCoy, Timmy McNally, Ken Campbell, Nick Holland, also Derek Offerman, your top five with Chris Wade, as well as Jason Metcalf, Trey Jackson, Chris SRE, as well as Mike Watts, your top 10. It's good to see the 33 of Chris up in the top 10 this go around when he was starting to fall back right before pit stops happened.
Oh, definitely really, really strong race by this 33 of SRE right now. Running into the top 10, one of the fan favorites. Really good job by him right now. I'm going to give a quick shout out here, Sam, to, Chris Lowry in the YouTube chat saying 68 is on rails. And Hugh responding with kids got hard. I'll give him that. Yeah, we touched on the 68, but man, what a recovery. Wrecking as the leader about 50 laps ago and now inside the top four. Really quick car, the 68 right now.
Wade getting himself a little bit mixy there for himself, the 53. Got to be hoping to not have issues like that continuing on as Wade's going to fall back to seventh. But yeah, for Nick Holland, what a recovery for himself. I was going to touch on before he got caught up in that wreck. This is the first time I've really seen the 68 look like one of the more dominant cars out here on track early in a race. Usually it comes out late where he's kind of just defending because he found himself just up in the lead because of tires and pit strategies that were thrown out. And now, right now, up to fourth. Can't wait to see how the race continues to develop, but at the timing of that caution, this driver's going to have about 60 to 71 laps that they have to run. I think that's right around the window. These drivers should be good to make it on fuel. It's a question on how are those tires going to look during that run and who wants to come in before that.
Yeah, and Sam, speaking on tires right now, I'm looking at the battle for the lucky dog position. 12 of Medlin, 05 of Rickard. Rickard now side by side with the 12 of Medlin, racing them really hard. Remember, these drivers much older tires than all the cars in the lead lap right now because they pitted multiple, about 10, 15, 20 laps before the leaders. You know, the 05 of Rickard actually pitted right before that caution came out. Will definitely have a much bigger tire advantage in that 12 of Medlin, but right now, Medlin's got to fight for everything he has to get his lucky dog position back.
Yeah, and he's got to figure out how to get by now. The 05 who just passed him, and also try to gain up on Paul House. Dr. House currently in 19th place. First car lap down in that lucky dog position as he's mixed and mingled with our lead lap drivers that are running around 18th position. So still a lot of pressure for these drivers to have a good run for themselves as we continue to watch this field and how they're going to develop for themselves. I mean, looking at the field right now, Hunter, we saw that the wreck, I know I went back and rewatched it myself. The caution that came out was a little bit of drivers feeling impatient in some ways. He felt really uncomfortable, and they felt like they had to make the moves. Contact was made. Is that going to be something that we have to keep our eyes out on as the longer this race goes on? And if we start to see lap traffic again for our lead lap drivers, do you think the patience is going to be there anymore?
Oh, definitely not. I mean, this is Dover. It's a short track-esque track where, you know, drivers fighting for every position they have and the ones they can get, especially with the tire advantage that they have on cars in front of them. And, you know, and that's where you would see, I wouldn't say as much impatience, where just drivers really want to get the positions back as quick as possible. And that's where, you know, controversy can come in and cars can get into each other and start wrecking. And unfortunately, you know, that's very common at a short track, intermediate track like Dover and tracks like that. And, you know, that's where lap traffic is trying to get back in the lead lap with fresher tires, messing with the leaders, you know, stuff like that. That's definitely where the risks come in the car. But right now, I mean, it's been really good racing between all these cars so far. You know, we saw that restart earlier in the race, and cars pushing it 2-3 wide all around the field. You know, those drivers were pretty lucky that we didn't see a caution.
Yeah, a lot of drivers lucky that we haven't seen a lot of the big ones happen. Really, the biggest wreck we've seen was our first wreck of the race, where we saw that of Nick Holland drifting back up into the field and taking out Derek Offerman, which Offerman, he's doing his best to continue running as well as he can after being very close to the contact that brought out our second caution of the day. And the driver that's starting to fade back was battling for second, now back to fifth. Nick Holland's losing ground. And the driver that's moving forward, Timmy McNally, is coming with a head of steam for the 88.
And McNally now really, last time by at 24-2, and the leader of Kyle McCoy at 24-1. So right now, McNally kind of running similar times to the leaders, only a couple hundredths off from the 7 of McCoy right now. And I think McCoy was so good in the longer run that, you know, he's really quick in the short run where he goes out, burns his tires up pretty quickly. Puts the heat into the tires really quickly, which makes him struggle a little bit more in the middle run than other drivers. And then he cools the tires back down, gets the heat back into him, and then pulls away in the longer run. But right now, McNally still trying to apply that pressure. Now about only 4/10 behind the leader.
Trying to see and make sure if this is a confirmed, but I think that of Nick Holland never really took his fast repair for the 68. So he's been just trying to manually repair, make sure the car is as repaired up as it can be. But you can see a start of a run when you've got some damage on the car. You can run decently well with fresh tires, but once you see the tire wear drift away, that can affect the handling and the balance of the car, which means you're using up more rubber than you'd like.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, damage just affects how the car drives, where the weight is being distributed. All these things are in factor when you have damage. And for the 68 of Holland right now, it looks like it's only really rear damage, but he definitely has some really heavy right side damage. And, you know, where your right front is, your right side tires is what gives you the most turn in the car. And when it's damaged and hurting the tire, you know, it's really hard to get all the turn out of it that you want right now. And that's probably why you can tell the 68 of Holland kind of falling back and now into 5th rather than the 4th place position he had right now, and about a couple tenths, 3/10 slower than the leader right now.
Bouncing back and forth on up front and in the middle, and the battling that's going on. Driver that got kind of pushed out of sorts was back in 13th position. You find that with Mark Beverly, Chris Wade, as well as Mike Lynch. These drivers all in line, and this is one of the closer battles. And then in front of them, you've also got a train of cars from about 8th back to the 12th position, and then that 1 second gap between 12th and 13th. Got these two mini groups of drivers trying to pick and choose and try not to be too over aggressive on where they're at.
Oh, definitely. And right now, looking at, the times of the leader, 7, Kyle McCoy right now, 24.5. Looking behind him, McNally, 24.4. We saw such good long run speed of the leader last time, the 7 of McCoy, much faster in the later runs than the 15 of Ken Campbell. Right now, looks like 88 of Timmy McNally, much quicker every single lap right now. And these past couple 10, 15 laps, than the 7 of Kyle McCoy. Do you think he's saving some tires right now, Sam, or to prepare for the longer run, or do you think right now he's just struggling with his race car?
I think it might be a little bit of overcooking those tires, just a little bit. But it's one of those things where you kind of have to, it's a juggling match. Is Trey Jackson going to get out of sorts between himself and Butch? Is a little bit too much of a shallow entry for the 31 as he's trying to get below the 00. And you've got Trey Jackson himself, and I believe that was Metcalf we saw just darting from trying to avoid that outside wall. But, the field right now, I think for Kyle McCoy, has to be focusing on that balance of, I want to be aggressive early, get that lead, but then I'm going to have to lose that ground to cool off those tires, get aggressive once again. And it's pretty hard to get that balance right, especially when you've got the 88 right just in your back bumper and forcing you to run as fast as you can be.
Oh, definitely, and that's where you just got to take your eyes outside of the mirror and just keep the pace that you're running to cool the tires back down. And that's where drivers then start to pull away again, is when they get back into their rhythm and get the tires back under them and drive away again. But most drivers just tend to keep the eye in the mirror and see how close that car is behind them. But right now, 7 McCoy now quicker again than Timmy McNally. So actually about even that time. So right now it looks like the 7 of McCoy now putting up a battle with the 88.
Doing his best to keep himself in a battle and doing the best, and it helps when you got lap traffic that's going to be slowing down your leader just a little bit caught in a poor spot. And I don't think we really touched on this at all. Touched on the fact of how to communicate with lap traffic there, Hunter. But when you're catching up to lap traffic, what are some of the best places that you want to pass the lap car? What are some of the poor places that you don't want to catch up to them at?
Definitely the best places to pass them is either on the exits of corners or definitely on the straightaway where you can clear them on the straight and before you enter the corner. The worst places you definitely don't want to see them is in the middle of the corner where you're trying to gain the most time and rolling through the center of the corner and keeping all that momentum through the corner. If you hit to check up with the car in front of you and lose all that momentum you just carried through the corner, it'll kill a ton of time and eventually make the cars behind you catch you during that lap. But right now, Sam, look at this. Leader 7 of McCoy, now 2 cars racing in front of him for position. This is going to be a scary run out for the 7.
Also, we're watching on screen drivers slicing and dicing lap cars that of going to be of Dart. That's actually going to be Travis Dart and Travis Butt trying to get themselves out of trouble as Dr. House and crew able to find their way through that little bit of a scuffle that was going on. Drivers slicing and dicing, and Scott Rickard, we touched on the fact of drivers that were going to need to have good runs to get themselves in positions to have that lucky dog spot. Andrew Medlin, he had lost too much ground with those older tires, but this is the pass for the lucky dog spot. Scott Rickard to the inside, passing that of Paul House, and now in the lucky dog position for the 05, but it's now a constant race against the clock, because now the next driver that Scott Rickard's got to catch up to is that of Thomas Valles, that's right behind the 05 that he just passed.
That's really, really important right off the 05 of Rickard. But the only problem is now he has to hope for a caution to come out to get that lap back, because right now, almost 3/10 slower than the leader of McCoy right now. And I think of Rickard just burning up his tires a little bit more, trying to get his positions back. to fight for that lucky dog position because he's trying to get back in the lead lap, but he has to get a caution to get that lucky dog position. So right now the 05 of Rickard really hoping for a caution to come out any moment now.
It looks like Paul House now going to be coming into pit road. Incident for the 18, forcing him to come in, and this could be a tail sign for some of the drivers that had to stay out, such as Scott Rickard and also Medlin. They might have to come into pit road, and as I say that though, Paul House comes into pit road and is going to be parking it, as well as Travis Butt. Schwarr had already DQ'd earlier in the race, but already 3 drivers that are out of this. Haas Beverly's been in pit road trying to get his car repaired since that first incident. I don't think we're going to be seeing the 28 back on the track, but a disappointing showing. Paul House, once again, great qualifying run, shows some pace early on in the first quarter of the race, and then just unfortunates happen to the 18.
Yeah, definitely, and we saw a lot of aggressive driving going through that 18 today, and unfortunately enough for him, he actually had really good just momentum to carry through the corners and even push it 3 wide and keep his car in one piece, but unfortunately enough, a heartbreak for the 18 of Paul House, who was just battling for that lucky dog position with that 05 of Rickard. And right now, Sam, I've been watching the 53 of Christopher Wade these last couple of laps right now. He's behind a giant pack of drivers right now, trying to make up positions about 3-4 cars in front of him. And right now he's really consistent, running similar times to the leader right now. He's definitely got pace still in him, and we've seen many times before, many races before, that he's got pace at every single track, and right now it looks like he's trying to make it show.
Yeah, this pack that we're seeing is from 9th back to Wade, who's in 13th place, but it's Watts, Brian Lynch, Chris SRE, as well as Nate Lynch and Chris Wade that are battling here. As you're keeping your eye on the 53 on the back half of this pack, I'm looking at the middle of this pack for 10th place. Brian Lynch, Chris Essery, both those drivers looking for great runs. Into pit road, though, is that of Nick Holland, pitting early, side by side for 10th place and now 9th place, as both Brian Lynch, Chris Essery looking for their first top 10 this season.
And I really like this strategy call for the 68 of Holland. He's definitely going to have a tire disadvantage to all the drivers right now that are staying out. But there's only 29 more laps to go, Sam. That's not a lot of time to catch up at a track like this, unless there's a huge tire difference. It's almost contacting out the 53 and the 24 of Lynch. Hard racing right now, but I think this is the perfect time for Holland to take that fast repair, get all the damage fixed so he can have his car have the best rotation through the center of the corner that he can. And he'll have the quickest tires, and he'll have the undercut advantage and take that lead. But it's going to be interesting. Only 28 more laps to go. When are the leaders going to come in? Because you got to have some space to breathe in. You don't want 10 more laps to go and have a 5-second gap between you and the leader to try to make up.
I think with 15 laps to go, that might be the last time we see any drivers thinking about this call of staying out any further. But we're seeing a lot more drivers making the call that they are going to be coming in. Thomas Valla is going to be making the call to come in. We're waiting for others that are up front. Really, it's our top 10 that we're keeping our eye on. Nick Holland, was the first of those. Currently 2 laps down. A lot of ground to make up. That's doing the quick math. You cannot make up 2 laps and make the pass for the lead, even if you were gaining a second per lap at this mark. So it is a little bit too far for that of Nick Holland to make the pass under green if everyone stays out. But this undercut, if we start to see those leaders not have enough fuel to make it, is when things get interesting. Hunter, I know for the drivers, fuel wasn't really the mindset coming into this race, but the timing of both of our cautions, it's now put that in the forefront of what everyone's minds are at.
Yeah, definitely. And this is where everyone's mind isn't on fuel anymore. It's just on tires and what is the biggest advantage you can have over every other driver right now. I don't see any driver really having a tire advantage besides drivers over the 68 of Holland right now, but the 68 of Holland will now have a huge advantage of having the gap now that he's undercutting every single lap right now, as we still see the leaders staying out. Almost 25 to go right now, about to be 24 for the leaders when they cross the line this time. They're just killing more and more time every single lap than the advantage he had over the 68 of Holland. Right now, Holland's just wanting the leaders to stay out as long as possible so we can have a bigger gap once they come down pit road.
Holland and Valles both with fresh tires getting by that of Kyle McCoy. McCoy Now got to pick and choose. It's got to be a little bit eerie being up front, having this lead over a second over that of Timmy McNally. But seeing the drivers that are now going to be a lap down, such as Nick Holland, he is now on complete go mode to try to unlap himself again and then go full way around to try to make the pass for the lead. It's a little bit too far, but hey, I believe that 68 is in full send. He's on rails. His goal, try to get 4 wins in a row. He already has won the last 3 at starting it off at that of Charlotte and then at Martinsville, Pocono. 3 very dramatic races to try to get your 3 wins, showing you can win practically anywhere. And then coming here to Dover, you thought he had one of the most dominant cars in the first 20 laps, caught up with a lap car, and now in probably a Hail Mary type of a move, pitting with 30 laps to go and trying to make the pass through the whole entire field to get back up front.
Yeah, and these past 3 wins, Sam, all have been holding off drivers on newer tires. And this will be really, really funny, Sam, if he can get his 4th straight win by holding off drivers behind him with faster tires. But right now, I mean, these leaders still staying out. I mean, we actually could see. Actually, Sam, I don't think the leaders are going to come down. I honestly think the 7 of McCoy is going to make the honest decision that he's going to win this race by racing it to the finish. And it's an interesting call because he can make it on fuel. I feel like he can make it on fuel. I may be wrong with the fuel calculations. He might come down sooner or later, but with only 18 more laps to race, I feel like he would have came down by now.
Yeah, and right now the only difference that's being made is about 1.5 seconds between Nick Holland and our race leader. It's actually a little bit less than that because of all the lap traffic that Holland has to go through. But Kyle McCoy, Timmy McNally, Ken Campbell, Derek Offerman, Jason Metcalf, all names looking for their first win this season. You have to drop all the way back to 8th place. Mike Watts, who is our next driver that has won this season. He won back at Daytona. I mean, this is looking poised that we're going to be seeing a new winner so far this season.
Yeah, definitely, and we've seen the strength that the 7 of Kyle McCoy has had these past couple of races. I believe he was the past ARCA champion when we were talking about it at Kansas, and he was really strong there as well. 7 of McCoy now showing his strength and how quick he really is. And he's not going to back down right now. And I really think the 7 right now, Kyle McCoy, is one of the favorites for the championship.
Yeah, back the ARCA series was season 1 of the Stars and Stripes, and Kyle McCoy kind of was one of the favorites in almost every single one of those races. Look at the past races here at Dover. Season 1 for the ARCAs, that was when we got to see Derek Offerman get a win. And then it was Scott Rickard who won for season 2 when this series was racing in the trucks. And then season 3, we're here in the Xfinity cars. And the drivers actually are certainly currently are having a poll to figure out what season 4 car is going to be for the Stars and Stripes, as all the drivers picking and choosing if it's going to go to Cup, stick with Xfinity, go back down to trucks or ARCA. A lot of decisions being made while in the middle of the regular season, as we're seeing Ken Campbell in a very tricky spot, mixing it up with some of the other drivers around him. As looking at the field currently, Nick Holland is putting in a valiant effort for himself as he has just passed Mike Watts, now trying to get up to Trey Jackson to try to unlap himself for the 2nd time and get himself back on the lead lap.
And Sam, you just touched on what they might do for next season right now. Looking at the inside information of what the poll is, looks like the Cup car is, as of right now, going to be what car most drivers want as their choice for next season. And it looks like it'll be very interesting to see how drivers can move, racing the low downforce, high horsepower package of these Xfinity cars, and how different or how well they can apply that to then the current Cup cars, where almost 550 in high downforce at most tracks, and 750 in low downforce at very little tracks. But it's very interesting to see how well drivers can apply and adapt, like this 7 of McCoy, which is almost a 5-second gap now over the 80 right now.
Almost a wreck coming out as watching these drivers hard racing for 2nd place is Timmy McNally trying to get by, trying to defend, that of Ken Campbell, and then also back battling for 5th place Jason Metcalf got into the outside wall, losing the position to Aaron Hale. Going to be losing ground, but these drivers, they've been out there for almost 60 laps on these tires. For the next 11 laps, it's going to be torture to try to figure out if you've got enough grip to make sure you do not bounce off that outside wall and bring out a caution here late.
No, definitely not. That would definitely be a heartbreak for all the leaders right now. The top 3 right now, Sam, I think only one of them, maybe none of them, have finished in the top 3 so far this year. Actually, no, the 7 of McCoy, let me correct myself. Kyle McCoy did finish in the top 3 this year at Kansas. But I think that I know the 15 of Campbell and maybe the 88 of McNally, but, all these drivers right now we're seeing in the top 3 haven't had top 3 performances these past couple of weeks. The 7 of McCoy missed the past 2. 88 of McNally did really good in qualifying, but struggled with bad luck last race, and same thing with the 15 of Campbell. But right now, Sam, I'm also keeping my eye on the 20 of Offerman. Really consistent every week, and he's doing really well.
Yeah, Offerman, he has certainly been someone that has been probably one of the more consistent drivers. I mean, for the longest time, throughout this season, he was actually tied with the most top 10s coming into this race with that of Scott Rickard, and with the poor showing that we're seeing from the 0-5 just because of misfortunes with the time of these cautions. It looks like Derek Offerman going to be going back to that, taking that capture of the most top 10s, top 5s. The most was be that of Andrew Medlin, who had 5 coming into this race, and tied with 4 was Scott Rickard. Nick Holland can somehow make a miracle, which it's looking like those tires start to even out with the rest of the field. It's not looking too great for that 68 machine. Needs a late caution, and seen a lot of lap cars getting a little slow and very low, giving signs of possibly someone could be having an issue here shortly. And for our leaders, they're crossing their fingers that they do not see a yellow flag.
Oh, definitely not. And we've been talking about fan favorites this whole race. Drivers are the fan favorites, but Sam, looking at the chat here, you got some fans here, Sam. You got Alejandro coming in. You're the best, Sam. Man, we got some famous people on track and in the booth as well.
We love to see when chat gives a little bit of love to everyone. Also, Hunter doing a great job of the booth, and also got to give a shout out to Robert Moyer, one of the best producers out there in the iRacing broadcasting world. As we're coming close, 5 laps to go. We're coming to the end of this thing. Kyle McCoy, the gap coming close to almost over 5 seconds. Timmy McNally, he's looking good for himself, but I think the biggest thing for Kyle McCoy is not for that of McNally to catch up to him. It's to make sure he stays out of trouble with any of these lap cars.
Oh, definitely. And with this gap you have, you don't have to drive the car like you were if you had a race right on your bumper with the driver trying to pass you. You have a 5-second gap, 4 laps to go, almost 3 when he crosses the line this time by. Drivers, he just has to hit his marks and not do anything that can cost him this race, and that'd be very hard to do with how consistent he's been all race today. But right now, you can be extra cautious with lap cars right now, and you can lose multiple tenths a lap if you want at this point. You've made the gap so large that even if you're slower than the car behind you, I think it's too late.
There's Aaron Hill now going to be moving up to 4th. Offerman in 5th position. Jason Metcalf in 6th. Mike Watson 7th. Trey Jackson in 8th place. Chris SRE in 9th position. The 33 trying to get his first top 10 this season. And what a finish that would be for himself, as Trey Jackson gets himself a little bit out of sorts. As right now, Kyle McCoy is one goal, get to the white flag, and it doesn't matter what happens behind him.
And this is where the drivers want to see this flag. Once they cross the line and take the white flag, the next flag will end it. No more cautions can come out, and now the white flag for the 7 of Kyle McCoy. He's just got to loop it around one more time and just keep it in one piece, and he'll be a winner.
Al McCoy trying to just survive, avoiding all lap traffic. There's been 2 very, very important cautions that threw all strategy out the window for some of the drivers that were hoping to dominate and win. But Kyle McCoy coming at turn number 4, our 5th winner of the season for the number 7. He might have missed the last 2 weeks, but with this win, it could lock him into the playoffs.
Really, really good recovery as well for that 7 car. Like you mentioned, 2 races he's missed now, but now comes back and wins it. So there you go. That's how you let yourselves into the playoffs. Remember, the saying is, you win, you're in. You win and you're in. And right now, 7 car looking really strong.
Looking great for himself. And for 3 laps to go, Jason Metcalf, he was running in 7th, running in 6th, and then he just lost so much ground. His tires just could not hold out for the 55. Too much damage. He lost 2 positions for himself. But the driver that gets to celebrate, gets to burn it down, Iowa State's, it's gonna be that of Kyle McCoy. We'll be right back in just a few as he's burning it down. We'll talk to our top 3, Kyle McCoy in victory lane, as well as Timmy McNally and Ken Campbell. We'll be right back in just a few. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show for the Stars and Stripes here at Dover. And we had 2 cautions that set the stage for where we thought some of our favorites were going to be. They were trapped a lap down, and some drivers that were on the lead lap had to try some dramatic moves to try to put themselves in winning conditions, but it all fell short, as it was Kyle McCoy who was on the winning strategy, found himself on the lead lap, and once he got the lead, was one of the most dominant cars up front. As coming up in 3rd position, Ken Campbell, He went with the let's keep ourselves safe and sound for most of this race, as we're going to be bringing up the 15 of Ken Campbell. Ken, it's Sam up in the booth. You got me?
I've got you.
Third place finish for yourself. I mean, it wasn't the win, but still a very solid run for your team.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the run that we had tonight. Did some practice. I knew tire wear would come into it, and was telling the guys, I was like, hey, tires. And looks like it bit some guys tonight. Actually, Nate ran out. He blew his with like 2 to go. And so I think Timmy had a little bit better tires than me, and nobody was catching Kyle. And so I got to Timmy, and then I went to push, and he had a little bit better push than I did. And then Nate blew his tire, so I just kind of babied it around, and I'm very happy with the P3. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing reports from drivers saying that they were practically ready to blow their tires at the end. How worried were you, though, in those final 10 laps, trying to get by lap traffic trying to get by you, and worried about your tires? How hard was it trying to stay focused in the moment in those final 15 laps?
Oh, it was extremely tough. You had a lot of different people on different tires. You still had people on new tires that were coming up and being quick, and it's like, do you give them the outside or the inside and whatnot? And people were calling people by, and yeah, I'm not usually up here this season, and so it was nerve-wracking to say the least.
Now, Ken, I know for us in the booth, we're starting to look at the points, but as for you as a driver, are the points an issue that you're looking at, or are you really just looking race per race?
Well, coming into the season, I was looking at points, honestly. I was expecting to, be up there. And then this season's just been a, series of unfortunate events. And so at this point, I'm just having fun with it. Just race to race. If I can learn something, great. And just go from there.
And I think that's probably one of the best ways to go out, as you've certainly been showing a lot more pace here, and the consistency, we hope it continues on. Ken, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Well, first off, thank you to my wife. Let me do this. It's a blast. Thank you to the league, Nate and Derek and the admins for running it. It's a lot of good guys to race with, and you guys put on an awesome show. So thank you to that.
That's Ken Campbell in the 15, getting a third place finish. And Ken, good luck next week at Phoenix.
Thank you very much.
And our newest driver we can add to the list, it's going to be Kyle McCoy getting his win here tonight. And it feels like, Kyle, this win was looming and was about to come at any moment. You just had such a fast car all season long. Did you feel like tonight was the night before the race started?
I don't know if I thought it was going to go that well. That one I would say I don't know if we have a race go that perfect again for my personal strategy again. I mean, everything worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. I knew I was going to be strong on long runs, but I didn't even know if we were going to get those. And luckily, we definitely got those. That's yeah, definitely played to my strength. I knew this was a good track for me. I didn't think it was going to be that good, I guess. that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those nights where the cautions kind of laid at very odd points of the race where drivers had to pick and choose. We saw that you were one of the few drivers that decided to, a lot of the drivers, I should say, that went with tires on that first caution. What made you feel like you had to go into pit road during that time?
Oh, man, that's a heck of a question. To be honest with you, and to be candid, I pitted because I couldn't see. We weren't caught up to the pace car. And I knew that the tire fall off was bad, and I didn't want to be out there on old stuff. And we had a 30-lap run at the beginning, so I figured, but there's probably a good chance we get another one. But I pitted and came in, and after I pitted, I felt kind of bad about it because I felt like I had saved my tires really well. So I kind of thought I had made a mistake at the time, and then we went green, and the next caution just fell absolutely perfect, where I got to lap a lot of my major competition tonight, and then from there, it was kind of as long as it went green, we were in full sail mode. So yeah, it really felt perfect. I didn't feel as confident about that call when I made it, but it was kind of a better safe than sorry type of play there. So and it was safe, and I'm not sorry. So
Absolutely not. Well, with this win, now I guess all you have to worry about is making sure you have enough races ran. You've already missed 2 races this season. Are you feeling comfortable that you're going to be able to make the rest of the season?
Yeah, I should be around. My family's on vacation last week, and it was a long ways away, so we decided not to bring the rig with us this time, and it felt perfect to where I missed 2 races in a row. So hopefully we'll be around. I don't see anything crazy happening, so hopefully we can add to this win total a little bit and stack the points up, and hopefully we don't have too much trouble. But we'll see what happens. I'm definitely gonna have to be careful on that front for sure. But yeah, happy to knock the win off the win column. That's for sure. Glad to have that one out of the way.
Well, Kyle, you are 5th winner so far this season, and congratulations on your win. Before we let you go, though, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Thanks, boys. First of all, thanks for putting on the broadcast. I'm gonna enjoy having this one to go back and watch and kind of blueprint for what a perfect Dover race looks like. Thanks to my teammates Brian and Travis for being here tonight. Fortunately, we veered forked in the road on that first strategy call, and everything after that, obviously, that one didn't go so great for those two guys. So hopefully we'll bounce back with a team, strong team week next week at Phoenix. Thanks to Nate for putting on the league, everybody that puts this forward, running it together. And yeah, thanks for everybody putting this on. It's a fun time. We can do this again.
We hope so too. Kyle McCoy getting the win here at Dover. Before the race, he was outside of the top 12 in points, and now with this win, finds himself locked into the playoffs. So congratulations, Kyle, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks, boys. Have a good one.
Hunter, this has been a wild race. Only 2 cautions, but it was probably the 2 most important cautions because some of our favorites made some odd moves, and kind of what Kyle said, it was a fork in the road of what positions and where you were going to come to pit road.
Oh, definitely. And, that's the beauty strategy, Sam, is how they're going to work out and how they play. And like we saw today, the lottery played into Kyle McCoy's hands. Only the top 10 finished on the lead lap. That is insane. That showed how mixed up the field was today, how spread out the racing was, and how the strategies differed from each other. And also, but like you mentioned, the drivers who we usually see dominate up front almost every single week, leading the laps all the time, just made different strategy calls, and unfortunately, put them laps down and never could really recover from it, since we only got 1 or 2 cautions. And unfortunately, one of them is where they decided to stay out, so they only had one other choice to take tires into that second caution, and unfortunately they didn't. And that's just where we see strategies like this, where we see other drivers have really good days and drivers who just sometimes don't have their best days because of these strategies. So overall, really great racing all around, and just congratulations to the 7 car for locking himself in the playoffs and having a really good win today. And overall, Sam, I really enjoyed that racing today.
Yeah, it was great to watch. A lot of green flag racing, only 2 cautions, and here's your top 10 rundown. Kyle McCoy going to get the win with Timmy McNally to 2nd. Ken Gamble going to be getting 3rd place with Aaron Hale in a 4th. 5th going to be going to that of Derek Offerman. And then the rest of the top 10 gets a little interesting because you got Mike Watts. Haven't really seen him having a lot of top 10 finishes besides his win back at Daytona. And then Chris SRE, what a run for himself. First top 10 this season. We're hoping to see this momentum carried forward for the 33 team. Jason Metcalf, who got heavily damaged, losing 3 positions in the final 3 laps, but able to stay in the top 10. Chris Wade, he was also able to have a great run for the 53 team. And Trey Jackson, top 10 finish for himself. But Hunter, final thoughts, and as well, some of the drivers that we pointed out. I mean, crazy to see Nick Holland as well as Scott Rickard, some of our favorites, falling back to the middle of the pack, 14th and 16th for both those drivers. And you fall even further down than that, Andrew Medlin all the way back in 21st position. These drivers going to have to hope for a great rebound as we're going to Phoenix next week.
Oh, definitely. And not only that, it shows how strong this track is with tire wear, and how large Miles the Monster just has an impact on tires, and how large that impact is with the strategy as well. And this is where they got to keep in mind of Phoenix, a flat short track. You got to be really easy on the tires as well, just like Dover, where some drivers gonna have to keep a note in the back of their head that I tried this tire strategy last week. Let's see if we can try to avoid what I did last week and put me laps out and try to go out next week at Phoenix and get a win.
Well, 8 races in, and we are down to our final 7 of the regular season for the drivers to pick and choose how they want to get into the playoffs. Already 5 drivers have won, 5 positions locked in. We only got 12 positions in the playoffs to be grabbed. A lot of pressure to be found here. We go to Phoenix, Indy, and Nashville Super Speedway are the next 3 races here for the Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series. Excited to see how they're going to be launching through the rest of the season, as now we throw it up to Robert Moyer to finish out the call.
All right, gentlemen. Good calling. Good action-packed racing. Monster of the Mile. One of my home tracks, about 4 hours away. Been down here multiple times. Awesome track to watch. And like you guys said here tonight, it chews up tires. And, congratulations to all the drivers that figured it out and kept the tires underneath them here tonight, especially to Kyle. Like you said there, Sam, finally he locks himself into the playoffs. He just got to make sure he shows up until the playoff starts, and that puts him automatically in. And he doesn't miss any more races because you have to have a set number of races put in to be able to lock yourself into the playoffs. But man, oh man, what fun racing, like I said. But we will catch everybody next Thursday at Phoenix. That's going to be a fun track to watch how they navigate around there as we head out west there. But before we head out west, we will be off tomorrow night, as Friday here at Freaky Fast is always wifey night or date night or just relax or do whatever you want to do night, as we take a break from broadcasting for one night. But we will have action-packed racing with NISCC Cup Series as their playoffs start. Top 16 at Charlotte with me calling the action with Sam Dyer. I'm telling you what, you want to get some stats and some information and come out and watch some great action-packed racing, make sure you tune in Saturday night at 8:50. But until then, have a great Friday. Don't work too hard. And if we don't catch you until next Thursday, have a great week. Have a great weekend. And we want to say here at Freaky Fast, God bless everybody. We love yous all. Peace out.